Teaching your kid consent is actually pretty easy. It's very important to note that this is not just a conversation for sons, but daughters as well. Research shows that boys are victims of sexual assault, and plenty of young men have sex that they later regret having, and they both need the same tools to do better. First of all, don't worry. You don't even have to call it consent. Kids don't even know what that means. Really, the core of consent is just understanding that their actions affect other people. It's not just about sex, but about boundaries. And it's crucial for kids to learn that early on. Now, on to the tools. To help your child build empathy, you first have to make sure they're old enough to understand that other people have feelings. Children aren't able to do this until they develop something known as the theory of mind, or the ability to separate thoughts and feelings that are different from their own. Until this happens, trying to teach a baby empathy is kind of a fool's errand. So by the time they're 2 or 3 years old, you can start encouraging them to imagine what it might be like to be in someone else's shoes. One way to do this is by making a game out of observing other people's facial expressions. Happy, sad, angry, very angry. In order to normalize consent, you want to make a habit out of asking permission for any physical interaction before it happens. It helps to ask questions like, is it okay if I hug you right now? Or, can I give you a hug? Which brings me to my next point. Never force a child to physically interact with anyone. Ever. Even if it's your wife, even if it's grandma, even if it's you. Even if they don't vocally say no, if they look uncomfortable in any way, just don't do it. Forcing children to give hugs and kisses reinforces the idea that no is not an acceptable answer, and that people owe each other physical affection. Look, as the adult, you need to understand that consent is something that can be given and taken away at any time. If your kid doesn't want to snuggle anymore during story time, encourage them to set that boundary. You can even encourage your kid to use safe words like flamingo or peanut butter. They're not just for grown-ups. As your kid gets older, you can start to connect these ideas with sex. And there's one really simple way to do that. Talk about it! Most parents understandably focus their sex talk on STDs and pregnancy, but it's also a great opportunity to look back on all the empathy your kids built up since they were babies. If they can understand pregnancy, they can totally understand that yes only means yes, and no can be communicated in a variety of ways. If you provide your kid with all of the empathetic insight and tools that they need, they probably won't grow up to be an asshole. And you can do all this without ever having to use the C word. Oh, not that C word, the other C word. I meant consent, not cunt.